Our readings today center around the virtue of humility. We hear in the first reading from Sirach, "My child, conduct your affairs with humility, and you will be loved more than a giver of gifts. Humble yourself, and you will find favor with God." In our gospel, our Lord says that when we are invited to a banquet, we should seek the lowest place rather than the highest. Though humility is a common concept in Christianity, I do think it's often misunderstood. Typically, when we hear that a man is humble, we might assume that he is timid or weak. However, true humility is anything but timidness and weakness. Rather, true humility requires courage, a courage to see things as they really are, and to admit who we are in relation to others, to ourselves, and to God. We begin to see this idea of authentic humility when we look at the root of the word humble, which is from the Latin humus, meaning of the earth. This is why when we say that someone is down to earth, we mean to say that they are humble. But what does of the earth or down to earth have to do with this idea of seeing things as they really are? Simply put, someone who is down to earth is someone who is tethered to reality. For example, someone full of pride thinks of himself as greater than who he really is, and is thus untethered from reality. He is unable to see himself and the world in truth. Rather than being down to earth, a person full of pride is, to use symbolic language, detached from the earth, detached from reality, and exists in kind of a delusional fantasy. On the other hand, someone who is honest about who they are and can see reality for what it truly is can be said to be humble. They stand on solid ground. They are down to earth and are realistic in the way that they perceive the world. This is why if a humble person is praised, they will not deny the praise if it is due to them. That would be false humility. Rather, a humble person will accept the praise in a dignified way, not drawing any more attention to their accomplishments than necessary. To put this in a Christian context, true humility always implies a vision of reality that is based on a relationship with God. That is the most encompassing vantage point that we can have, to see all things as coming from the hand of the Creator, and then to live in conformity with that truth. Thus, being tethered to that reality means we will always recognize the lowliness of our human nature. We will always remember that we, who are finite and limited by so many factors, are loved by He who is infinite and unlimited in every way. With God at the forefront of our minds, we are compelled to live humbly. And it is that kind of vision that allows us to see reality for what it is. To be of the earth, again, tethered to reality. Without God, it's easy to think of ourselves as gods, vying for importance, comparing ourselves to others, and wanting everyone to think of us as more than what we are. Yet with God, we are all equal, all loved, and have no pretenses whatsoever. Think of the fall of the high angel Lucifer before he became Satan. When it was announced to him that God, his creator, would lower himself in an act of astounding humility to become man in the person of Christ, Lucifer cried out, "I will not serve." And then came St. Michael's powerful response to Lucifer. Who is like God? Who is like God? Again, true humility is a simple recognition of reality, of who we are and of who God is. Because of his immense pride, Satan's very existence is frustrated. He lives in eternal torment because he desires to be like God, yet cannot possibly fulfill that desire. Humility, on the other hand, grants us a certain ease in which to live life, a freedom in simply resting in the knowledge of our equal dignities in relation to our shared Creator, the Eternal Father. This is exactly why in today's gospel, Jesus urges us to associate with the lowly. Because in reality, no one is lowly and no one is lofty. In God's eyes, we are all the same. Further, associating with the lowly reminds us of the humility of Christ. If anyone was said to be associated with the lowly, it was our Lord. Whereas Lucifer desired to be greater than who he was, refusing to serve and thus refusing the reality of his nature, Christ, on the other hand, as St. Paul wrote, did not deem equality with God something to be grasped at. Rather, he emptied himself and took the form of a slave, being born in the likeness of man. That act of humility on Christ's part was anything but weakness. It was, in fact, an act of divine power. In our equal lowly states, are we willing to do the same? Do we have the courage to admit who we really are and thus be tethered to reality? Doing so will only lead to our own freedom and peace. For in living with accord with reality, we will all become who God intended us to be.